Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market. This is our daily show from Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. BST, every day of the week, where we discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and Blackrock's Bitcoin market. I'm joined by my legendary co-host, Legendary. I'm your host, B-Check, and we're going to get to everything to do with the market in just a little bit. But just a reminder, friends, before we do that, that's nothing that we say here is unfortunately financial advice, because we do not know anything for sure, unfortunately, and therefore it's required that you do your own research and use your own decision making. It is Tuesday. It is the 16th of July. Legendary, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
GM, doing pretty well. Very happy with a recent upgrade that I made, upgrading my TV, and following the line of thought of needing to have a toothbrush that is AI powered, that has AI features. Also now the TV, the new OLED, has AI features. And we're talking a bit about this pre-show. I feel like it's impossible to launch any kind of new tech product these days without having to slap the AI buzzword on it. Whether it makes sense or not, that's a different question, but it's very, very omnipresent.
So we've got the AI toothbrush, we've got the AI TV now. What exactly can the AI TV do?
So apparently they built a neural model that is able to analyze all of the content that you're watching on screen and track the emotions of the actors. The actors is the people you see on screen, and match the sound stage to the emotions of the scene in the movie or show, whatever you're watching at the moment.
Okay. So wait,
It
what?
doesn't make any kind of sense in my opinion, because you have a director of a movie, right? And they're setting the sound stage and controlling everything, and that already happens, right?
They're
You
going
have
to put sounds that are not supposed to be in the movie.
no, no, they're not putting sounds in there. They're like changing the sound stage. So basically where the sound is coming from, which is already existing in the like hi-fi mix, but they are changing that mix to AI optimize it to just make it more immersive apparently, but I think it's BS.
And how much did you pay extra for this pointless feature?
I didn't pay extra for it. It was part of the basically top of the line OLED that I got.
Okay, so they threw it in for free.
Basically, yeah, it's not a subscription. Imagine having to pay a subscription fee for that.
Okay, well, maybe at some point they'll figure out a way for it to actually be leveraged to do something interesting, but that sounds dubious, to be honest. That's a dubious use of AI from what I can see.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely agree.
how's things otherwise? Everything going well? Uh, yeah, how are you doing otherwise?
Yeah, I feel like we didn't have a chance to like properly speak over the last couple of weeks. It was either hosting the show or business catch up, but we both realized like as friends we didn't have any chance to catch up. Otherwise,
Yeah,
yeah,
and just before the show, we just dropped a couple of bombshells on each other.
yeah.
We
Within 5 minutes, we're like, oh, what the fuck? We need hours to talk about that.
Yeah, there's like some pretty crazy, crazy updates, which have nothing to do with the show, but we have been sitting on, I guess, for weeks because we just haven't had a chance to talk properly.
Yeah,
Um,
Kashmir is in the YouTube comments saying, "Get a room, guys."
it was a bombshell, Kashmir, absolute bombshell. I don't know if I can continue. The world has changed from what I thought previously. Um, okay, let's get into the show. As always, we'll start with the headlines for the crypto market, the NFT market, and all the price action. We're going to go to the snapshot, which is pinned up top. But first, I need to get to coin market cap. Let's do some price action first before we get into the headlines. I'm going to share the screen for people who are watching in. Remember, we're live on X and we're live on YouTube too. So Bitcoin is actually up 1% at 63.3. ETH is up 2% to 3.4K. That's nice to see. And Solana's up 3% as well to to $156. Interesting on Bitcoin though, it actually ripped as high as I think it touched 60. It almost touched 65. I don't know if it actually touched 65. It almost touched 65 overnight, and then had this like pretty, I wouldn't say savage because it's not in the grand scheme of things, but like a reasonable dip. Went from 65 down to as low as 62.5, and now it's kind of bounced back up to 63.3. We'll touch on that price action and maybe what's going on there in just a little bit. Um, getting into the main headlines, we've got BlackRock CEO saying he was wrong about Bitcoin. And he says it's good for when countries are debasing their currencies. We're going to play that clip in today's show and have a bigger conversation on Bitcoin. Next, the ETH ETF is now predicted for Tuesday, the 23rd of July. So that is in 1 week's time. Got some interesting takes on that to talk through. And then finally, pro crypto VP chosen by Trump was JD Vance. And there was a meme coin, Vance, which completely sells off after the announcement. So we're going to do a little bit of analysis there and like try to get to the bottom of what's really going on with these. I think the term is politified tokens, and try to understand what exactly is happening. They've got some great examples. Some notable sales: CryptoPunk Nerd Glasses 27.69 ETH, Tyler Hobbs Fidenza sold for 30 ETH. Interesting point. This is from later in the snapshot. We'll touch on this again, but just to bring to people's attention, the largest CryptoPunk holder has started selling at reasonable prices. That was we were informed by that by Punk's OTC, said in the last 5 days, we've begun seeing the largest individual Punk holder begin lightening his collection at some very fair prices. If anyone is shopping for something specific, I think of this as a pristine opportunity to browse Wilcox NFT's collection. So if you are in the market for a CryptoPunk, or if you just want to see what that type of holder has in his collection, it's in the snapshot. You can click through to his profile, and then you can basically find the NFTs that he's sold, and find his wallet and see all the punks he's got in there. He has got a truckload. Maybe we'll try to bring that up in a little bit too, because that might be interesting. But that's the price action. Those are the headlines. Legendary. Is there anything, before we get into a bigger discussion on those, is there anything catching your attention?
Yeah, absolutely. If we take a look at the Mintify heat map, Mintify, our NFT trading and platform partner, there's probably one collection standing out today with a massive plus of 43%. It is the Winds of Yawanawa by Rafik Anadol, and it's not based on an individual sale that just has pumped the floor to 5.7 ETH. There's been 6 sales over the last 24 hours, and a bit more price action generally over the last week than the weeks before. And hence the floor is, if you look over the last 7 days, even up 70%. And again, sitting at a 5.7 ETH floor, top offer coming in at 4.1 ETH.
You know who the buyer is on this?
I don't.
I do. It is, again, we've mentioned them a couple of times in the snapshot and on the show. Hive Mind Capital.
Is it?
Is this group of people? Yeah, I'll show you the CEO. I don't know if it's CEO, leader, chief fund person is this guy. I'm going to share his profile on the screen as well for people who are watching in. It's Matt Zhang on Twitter, at Zhang_Matt, founder and managing partner at Hive Mind Capital. He announced, he's been announcing these buys. So here you go. Sorry, I meant quintuple 13 hours ago. Oh, am I showing the screen? 2 more flower origin Winds of Yawanawa, 103 and 638 by Rafik Anadol, joined the Hive Mind Capital Digital Culture Fund. So that was five that they bought yesterday, basically. So
gotcha. That makes sense. And another thing, it's not a Mintify, but Tyler did have a post about that, is looking at the ordinal side of things. Feel like we haven't touched and checked in on ordinals in quite a while. They are up quite a bit. And Tyler's saying, oh, well, Bitcoin is up 13% on the week. We also see Node Monks being up 11%, back to a 0.818 BTC floor over the last 24 hours. Puppets up 13%, Quantum Cats up 8%, and Bitcoin Frogs up 11.5%. So definitely also some strong price action when it comes to the ordinal side of things.
Interesting. It definitely feels like ordinals, at least I know they've got a huge, like, kind of native, strong internal community, but it definitely feels like the people who are more tourists just going there for the speculation have left the ecosystem, which, to be honest, if you think about it, that's probably the best time. That's when you know things are going to bottom, right? Because the tourists have left. And if there is anything of value left in that ecosystem, which I think that there is, you've probably bottomed out at some point in time around that region, because everyone who's holding now wants to hold. I mean, NodeMonks went to what was it, 0.8, 0.9 Bitcoin. So I've lost, like, if anyone wanted to sell on some downtrend, like they're probably out now. That's 0.7 BTC less than where they're at now. So yeah, interesting to see how it responds to the kind of more bullish Bitcoin environment at the moment.
Yeah,
One thing,
perfect example of that tourist capital that you mentioned. I got an ordinal when they were,
Tourist Capital, that sounds like a good fund that we could
yeah, we could do
we
that.
could create.
When I got in on the way down, I don't know, around 0.4 BTC, and I was like, nah, it doesn't look too good. Exited at 0.35-ish, took the loss on that. Perfect example of tourist capital that played out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was Tourist Capital as well on those. I made a huge gain on one, made a significant loss on the other, I ended up netting off and making no Bitcoin in the end. Although I made 0.25 Bitcoin on a Liquidium loan in the end, which is pretty fun. Right. I mentioned the other thing, I guess, what would be interesting, I think, for people is this huge Punk holder, because this is pretty niche information. You had to have picked it up from Punk's OTC yesterday. And in order to identify the wallet, you need to know which one of the ones he sold so that you can go in and check the rest of his punks. So I know, I'm going to share on the screen for the people who are watching in. This is probably best to see. But you've got, so I go to these sales. I know that this Nerd Glasses punk was sold by that particular wallet. Oh, here you go. It's sold. His ENS is wilcox.eth. This is a pretty nice one, right? Legendary. It's like a pretty clean one. Nerd Glasses at 27.69 ETH. He sold it for yesterday. And given that the floor is like, let me just check the floor. I think the floor is no more than 27 as well, or something like that. Is that right? Let's see. For sale. Yeah, the floor is at 27.25. And this one sold for 27.69. Like, that's a bargain, basically. If you're in the punks market and if you're a serious collector, frankly, even if you're a flipper, you could probably sell this for more. And this is what the buyer is attempting to do. He bought it for 27.69 ETH. He's trying to sell it for 34.69. I don't know if you're going to get that type of premium, but it's clearly worth more than the floor. Okay, so we want to get into that person's account and see what else he's got available. So this holder, wilcox.eth, has, and shout out to Kashmir, that's exactly correct. Crazy that the richest holders have a quiet Twitter account. That is almost always true. So this holder has 208 punks, like right now. As you can see, I'm scrolling through them. A huge variety, loads of cool ones that I think are really cool, including a hoodie. I actually really like the eye mask trait, legendary, like these ones. The ones with the eye mask kind of look like some bandit or bank robber or something. I don't know why I like those.
Interesting.
I like all the glasses ones as well, but look, his collection's pretty epic. And so he's got two for sale at the moment, one for 30 ETH, one for 32. And you can see that this person has sold 80 punks for 4,959 ETH. That is $16.8 million. And I think he's been like, I think these were sold, I think they were in the last cycle. So I don't know, just picking a random one. This police hat smiley officer selling for 82 ETH. This was sold, yeah, in the last bull market, June 20th, 2022. So he sold at 80. He's made a very multi-millionaire if he isn't already from those trades. Still has another 208, as I said, and seems to be open to offers at the moment. So that's pretty interesting. Legendary, any reflections on this? Otherwise, I'm going to ask you which punk you might like out of this collection.
Yeah, my immediate question to you would be, since you've done a bit of punk flipping in the past with that one police punk, is it something you'd be looking at to see if you can get a good deal and try to flip it, or you're not in the market to flip a punk right now?
So interestingly, this is, I guess, yeah, I have 5 things. I'll just tell you guys what I'm thinking on at the moment. for people who know my organizational level, my to-do list is split into 4. It's got modern market, angel investing, admin, and then trading. My trading part has only 5 things. Is it? No, 4 things written down right now. Number 1, sell the last bit of TIA. I completely round tripped TIA. I didn't get wrecked on it. Just literally round tripped it. And then when I unstaked 21 days ago, I thought I unstaked everything. I sold it back for the same amount that I'd bought. And then I found some more that I'd staked. So now I've got to wait another 21 days to get rid of the rest. So that's one thing I need to do. Number 2, farm Jupiter. Jupiter, as everyone knows, is doing insane volume. It's basically got a monopoly on Solana for DEX volume. And they did their airdrop, of course. It went very well, ultimately. I think the token is way up on where it came out at. And they're going to do that every year. And we're getting to the point now in the midsummer where you can start to think towards, well, if there's not anything specifically to do, like this is the thing, you can't turn up in December and be like, right, Jupiter's got an airdrop in January, I'm going to do something on Jupiter. Like you've got 6 months now, do something. If you're going to do something, do something. So that's my note to myself. I also got a point, buy Bitcoin, just because I wanted to buy some more. I bought some earlier today, not financial advice, etc., etc. And the final thing is CryptoPunk trades. So to your question, I've given a little bit more information on what I'm looking at, thinking about at the moment. There's obviously other stuff that I'm doing as part of my portfolio. That is by no means the only set of things that I'm doing.
Yeah, follow-up question on that for you from the YouTube comments. Just Stefano is asking, B-Check, what are your interests when it comes to angel investing?
Well, according to my to-do list, there's nothing in there at the moment. So there is no interest at the moment, and I'll explain why. There's the market valuations have got too high. There are too many different types of teams trying to raise, or I think they think it's a really great time to raise because everyone's flush with cash and the market's going into a better period. So personally, I have no particular interest in it unless there's some type of very interesting proposal on one of the chains that are really going to pop. So after being at ECC in the last week, like Mega ETH and Bearer Chain, Monad's already kind of established. I think everyone knows that should do well, although I don't think it will do well as well as people think, because there's this diminishing return on every chain that keeps going to market. Everything's worth less than the previous one at the moment. So Monad, Bearer Chain, and Mega ETH, there seems to be some excitement on. So maybe if there's something on those, I'd be interested to take a look at. But broadly speaking, I'm pretty allocated for the cycle. And one of the things I heard Arthur Hayes talk about when I was watching a podcast, when he was talking about his investing strategies, and this was back in like as early as February, March or something. He was like, I mean, maybe, I don't know if this is entirely true. But he said, we're not investing now. We've done our investments. The time to invest was at the end of last year and through the bear market. Like that's when I think based on how I've been hearing people talk about this stuff, that's when you're supposed to allocate capital. Now, the majority of people allocating capital are just, it's like a coin flip whether you're going to get your money back, full stop. So I think the real value stuff, or the underpriced value has already been had. Now you're really into a coin flip, which, to be fair, is part of angel investing as well, right? If you still have a great team or great product, you can still hit it out of the park. But it's just not. It's far more appropriately priced, or the risk is costly. So that's how I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. I think I'm very, very similar to that. That end of last year, start of this year, I was like very happy to just spray paint on the wall and see what sticks in terms of the investment approach. And now I'm like very, very, very reserved. I think May, June, and July, I did 2 small tickets, and that was it. Mostly looking more at like infrastructure deep in plays right now, because I feel like there wasn't one big deep in winner that took all the attention, following exactly your theory that you have like we had with EtherFi, basically the first airdrop in the tree staking category, and the rest like didn't live up to the same expectations. And I feel like we didn't. Obviously, we saw IO.net on Solana doing pretty well, but I don't think that we have that category winner for deep in for the cycle yet. So this is something where I'm like being a bit more active, but still down 95% in terms of investment volume as compared to the beginning of the year.
Do you know what though? Here's a reflection both on trading and angel investing, and I think I'm starting to become better at understanding what type of investor I might be. I don't know if this is the perfect example, but someone was talking about these two types of traders. One's like mean reversion trader and like a momentum trader. And I think, I don't know if this is the perfect definition, but let me explain to you what I think those two things mean and where I sit on where I sit in out of those two things. And it applies both to trading and angel stuff. What I want to do is find something that is underpriced, like specifically underpriced, and then begin to sell it as it becomes more even appropriately priced. Like the angel deals I got in on and did well. I did the maths, I did this, I figured out the stuff, and it was underpriced. And you know, in fortunately, some of those things then became overpriced when they actually came to market, which is fine. But the point is, even if it came out at an appropriate price, I'm up. And the same thing with trading other things, whether that's NFTs or other things. Like I want to get things when they're underpriced and then be able to sell it at an appropriate price or higher. What I am less good at is this market right now, where at least for angel stuff, where it's like, no, everything is an appropriate price. It's like relatively expensive. People are relatively risk on. And now you need to specifically select the one that is gonna be the winner. And look, I'm at the beginning of my angel investing journey. Maybe that's something I'll develop and want to try to get better at over time. But I'm just saying, I know what I'm good at the moment. And I have no experience in this type of market. And I want to protect my capital because I've done well so far. So I don't want to burn all of it trying to pick the winner when I'm only going to place 6 bets, when I think typically proper firms will be placing multiple bets, and then they'll find a winner in that with more of that stuff, right? So that's how I'm thinking about that. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, just shutting out quickly. Kashmir again from the YouTube comments saying we aren't even trading adoption anymore. We're literally trading narratives and momentum. In a pretty similar camp to you when it comes to mean reversion versus momentum. The thing that might be a bit different for me is I also know that I'm not good at momentum trading, but for the angel investing stuff, and this is ultimately why I still continued to do it, I still try, but I do try it with way smaller ticket sizes than I would typically do.
Yeah.
Just to get that experience and have a bit of skin in the game and see if my bets and my thesis and lines of thoughts make sense or not. But even if they don't, because I know I'm not good at that, but it's a skill I want to develop, financially ultimately won't matter too much because it's smaller tickets and I just don't care about them as if I would continue to invest with the same like force that I did at the start of the year.
And that's a good learning, right? Like one of the things a close friend told us, or I can't remember if it was you who told you and then you shared it with me, which I think makes a lot of sense, is like when you come into like a bit more money than you've had before, do not just immediately increase all of your ticket sizes in line with this newfound capital. Yeah. Like that is the surefire way to burn every single thing that you've just built to the ground. Like stay humble in the new game that you're trying to play. And
it's the best advice that I personally got this year. And I'm not going to say names, but I have a friend of mine who invested in similar projects as I did, but did increase ticket size after that massively. And basically went from, say, I don't know, a 5K ticket to a 30K ticket to a 40, even 50K ticket. And basically missed that transition in terms of reading the market when it comes to angel investing, and burned through all of the profits that he had made at the start of the year. So the temptation and the risk is real there. And then you get into this mode where it's almost like you're gambling in a casino, you try to chase a loss, and you're like, I maybe missed out on that one, but if I put 30K into the next one, it will make up for the one that I fucked up before. And yeah, it's then a pretty quick route to losing all of the money that you made.
Absolutely. I think that's you spoke about temptation. The temptation is so there, like especially when the market was lighting on fire. I remember back in the start of the year when Portal ripped and everyone saw that, and that was the exact time where if you were raising then, you definitely took more capital from me than I probably should have given. And look, this is me saying, like, I know that was the rule, but I probably gave a little bit too much at the same time too. So yeah, that's an interesting reflection. I hope that was an interesting discussion on the angel side of stuff. Just bring it back to the CryptoPunks stuff for a second, though. Just looking at these punks, like, so talking about this kind of mean reversion trading rather than momentum. What I mean by that is I would rather pick up one of these for like 20, like say the floor is at 27. I would rather put in a bid at 26, 27, maybe sell it for 30, 31, rather than the whole punk floor starts to move. I get a sense from the market that the market is moving. Maybe it moves from 27 to 29. I buy one at 29.5 and then try and sell that for 33. So like, that's what I mean. The difference, where I would sit in this type of move. And that is actually what I'll be looking at. So I don't know. I'm going to be having a little look. I don't know that they've accepted any other bids recently. So let's see. But interesting. I've just told hundreds of people what that plan is. So maybe someone else is going to do it before me, and good luck to you if you do, but don't get wrecked. And it's not my fault if you do. So just something I've been thinking about.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm not in the market to buy a punk. It's just, I never spent a lot of time trying to understand the collection when it comes to trades and stuff. So it'd be horrible at picking out something that I would have a good potential to flip. But that maybe was a similar hypothesis for me when buying the pudgies, which is something that's closer to the things I understand when it comes to trading NFTs.
Yeah, fair enough. I know loads of people. Final point on this before we get into the like main headlines for today. I know people are kind of ambivalent about some, or like the newer generation to crypto is kind of ambivalent about punks because they'll say like, well, that's for the boomer generation or maybe the ETH maxis or whatever. But like, I came in 2021 and I would want one. I don't know when it would be appropriate for me to sink the capital into it, but I would want one. I don't think that I would be alone in that, but yeah.
Which EFP though?
Yeah.
Really?
I think that'd be the only thing that I would change it for. Yeah.
Answer. Nice.
It's the only thing that I would change it for because it has no execution risk of people I know that Yuga own them, but like the founder isn't gonna do something dumb like Kevin Rose did when I had a Moonbird and then I had to sell it and move on and get an artist get a friend to draw me my own that has no execution risk. So I have trust issues from then. So until that time, I'm going to keep my personalized free JPEG as my NFT.
Yeah, that's fair. Shall we get into the news?
Yeah, let's do it. So getting into maybe the first headline, I'm going to share the audio actually. In fact, let's share the audio and let's watch the clip. I'm going to make sure I can do this properly because I need to remove this one. I'm going to present on screen. We're going to watch the clip from Larry Fink, CEO. Oops, I think I'm doing the wrong thing here. Hang on. Share screen, Chrome tab. Here we go. We're going to listen to the clip from the CEO of Blackrock getting so outrageously bullish on Bitcoin. This is very, very enjoyable for the Bitcoin bulls out there. This was from yesterday.
Yeah, because of the deficit. Now, I know you have been a leader in willing to embrace crypto. You have made it so that people can be in Bitcoin. We hear that you are thinking about Ethereum. These are incredible things. Now, BlackRock is not known as a gunslinger by any means. So you obviously must believe that this maybe is an alternative. Is this an alternative in order to be able, because of the deficit, maybe something long-term people should have?
Absolutely. As you know, I was a skeptic.
Yes.
I was a proud skeptic. And I studied it, learned about it, and I came away saying, okay, My opinion 5 years ago was wrong. Here's my opinion today. This is what I believe in today. I believe the opportunity today. I believe Bitcoin is legitimate. I'm not trying to say there's not misuses like everything else, but it is a legitimate financial instrument that allows you to have maybe uncorrelated, non-correlated type of returns. I believe it is an instrument that you invest in when you're more frightened, though. It is an instrument when you believe that countries are debasing their currency, debasing their currency by excess deficits, and some countries are. I believe we have countries where you're frightened of your everyday existence, and if you have an opportunity to invest in something that is outside your country's control, then you can have more financial control. And so I'm a major believer that there is a role for Bitcoin in portfolios. I believe you're going to see that as one of the asset classes that we all look at. I look at it as digital gold, as I said before, and I do believe there's a real need for everyone to look at it as one alternative to, I would say, the optimism that I have in the world. If you want to hedge hope, Bitcoin is not an instrument for hope unless you're hopeful you're going to make a lot of money on it. But I look at it as a vehicle in which you're expressing your financial acumen in something that you're more frightened of the world, you're more frightened of your existence. And I believe there's a great industrial use for it. And I think a lot of people are missing that.
I couldn't agree more. I changed my mind about it when you did. You had been my thinking. It was like, you don't believe it, so I can't believe it. I want to thank Larry Fink for the.
As if Kramer is just flipping bullish as soon as Larry Fink tells him that Bitcoin is good. Legendary, just going to go to you straight away.
Kramer to think, Tiro said in the comments, Kramer to think, Daddy, I was wrong until I bought into.
Exactly. Look, what are your reflections on this? I've got some thoughts as well. Funky's got his hand raised. Two, want to hear from him. Legendary first.
Yeah, look, I like the fact that Larry Fink is coming out and saying, hey, I was wrong about this asset class. I view that in a completely different light. Obviously, you could make the point, well, it's pretty obvious that he's going to say that because BlackRock has now a lot of exposure to cryptocurrencies. On the other hand, you still have JP Morgan, a company that has crypto exposure, that has a blockchain, and that has a CEO that's still heavily criticizing Bitcoin and calling it a scam. So still takes something to come out and say you were wrong about something and changed your mind. And I feel like it's pretty difficult to do that because we on social media on X, we love to go back and say, but you have said this in a post 5 years ago. And I don't know, we paint it out as if it's so uncommon to like learn and change your beliefs throughout your life and educate yourself on stuff. So yeah, I mean, obviously love the video, love that he's so bullish on that. One thing to be more precise that stood out to me was mentioning not only like, hedge against like the belief that the world could become like a worse place, but more so the positive way to look at it and say that he sees an industrial use case for Bitcoin. That was an interesting one.
Yeah, that is interesting. One of the things that I found interesting was, I mean, I thought it was kind of funny that he's been studying it. It's like, is this guy on CT? Everyone on CT is telling everyone to study this, study that. Fink has been studying Bitcoin, so I guess he's in a position to come to his conclusion now. I've got some additional thoughts, but let's go to Funky first. Funky, welcome to the stage, my friend. Hope you are well. What is your thought on this kind of BlackRock? We already know they're endorsing, but just even bigger commentary from the CEO.
GM friends, I think I'll have to start with my Michael Saylor quote, there is no second best, right? And people are starting to come around to this idea. And, I even hear it from BBF every once in a while. I wish rather than having X coin, we just had more Bitcoin. I think that this is a really interesting conversation I had at one of the ETHCC side events, probably on like Thursday night, I believe it was somebody who is the founder of a protocol said, just looked me straight in the face and said, how can you not be bullish? Right, we see all the little dips and whatever, and people just run and going crazy, and you would think that they're just immune to this price action at this point. How could you not be bullish? I've said this many times. Brad talks about this. It's all up and to the right over time. So, there's no real, and I think this is now the point at which any single person who's listening to this show should be going out there and evangelizing crypto anew, right? Because this is showing tremendous legitimacy. Matthew's in the audience right now when he was on, and he's an RI, a registered investment advisor, talking about it with other people in his area. No one had a crypto plan, and I think you did a great job in the write-up this morning talking about just how this gives everybody like cover for all those investment advisors to say, why don't you allocate 1% of your portfolio to Bitcoin? Because this is something that's not going anywhere. And him coming out and giving it this sort of legitimacy, I think, is incredibly important, especially here in the United States, where we just keep fumbling the bag when it comes to regulation and providing any kind of clarity for this industry. So it's long overdue. Sorry for the minute rant, but yeah, buy Bitcoin. Not financial advice.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, it was very interesting to hear him kind of say that, right? Like he doesn't name any countries when he says if your country, or does he even mention the government? I can't remember exactly, but he doesn't mention anyone specifically when he's talking about the debasement of a currency. I think it's very, very easily applicable to the States, obviously, but frankly, to loads and loads of governments around the world, that message will ring really, really true. Just maybe a follow-up question, Funky, as someone who has been, I don't know, at least one of the biggest Bitcoin proponents that I have come across, do you think the branding, and this is maybe not hyper important, but do you think it's fine that the branding is, look, this is to hedge hope. Like, this is not a hopeful thing. This is if the world goes bad, then this is like a good protection mechanism against that. Or do you think there is actually more hope attached to it too?
I mean, I think it doesn't really matter, because either way it plays in terms of the story and a narrative, because at the end of the day, all governments that are using fiat systems, that they're all debasing their, and then when you start mixing in a basket of assets and everything else, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. So I think it's something that is a positive and a net good. And if nothing else, can help us teach other people about the situation of fiat and expansionary economics and why this does not work for the vast majority of people. So to me, it's an opportunity to educate, to elucidate important points about what's happening to our society with inflation and it just running rampant and never calming. Prices aren't going to come down. It doesn't matter what the Fed says the target rate is. So from my mind, I think this is an extraordinary opportunity to talk to people about what Bitcoin can do, balance out their portfolios in a world where our purchasing power is melting like an ice cube. Maybe not the most hopeful take, but it's something that should open people's eyes, and I feel is a very good point of education.
Interesting. I want to just share another piece of information and then maybe come to Legendary on this. Got two pieces of information. I was thinking the other day, this is related to Bitcoin, but Moon Overlord had asked this question. He asked the question, how do I make money on the stablecoin supply increasing by a trillion, quadrillion, he had actually said, because he was being a bit facetious. Let me just share the correct screen here. Here we go. So I said this is a great question. If you're pretty confident the number of stablecoins is going to go up moving forward, I am. How do you place your bet for this? So Brad actually replied by coin, and I shared a little image from our Discord where I had literally just asked the question, like, is it ultimately just buy coin, Coinbase stock? But interestingly, a couple of other people came back and just said buy Bitcoin. Like Prospector, an old friend, had written buy Bitcoin. It follows M2 growth. Stablecoin providers will be the biggest buyers of US treasuries as people rush to save in dollars in countries where currencies are debased at a greater rate than USD. This should lead to more global adoption of Bitcoin as people use digital money. And Bharat, also quite prominent investor, also just replied saying you buy the alpha asset, which is Bitcoin. And I asked, is that just because USD supply is generally increasing, or specifically because the higher proportion of circulating USD, which is still increasing, is going on chain? And I was thinking more for the latter. And he just kind of explained his thinking. Think of it in fiat terms with, say, USD. If you know it's going to continually inflate, which it will, you buy a store of value, a hard asset like real estate on the latter question, you'd want to be an investor in the stablecoin provider itself to get exposure, which is be the bank. So I think on the one hand, I think the answer is like, well, to buy Bitcoin to some extent. The second answer is to maybe be the bank, like something like Coinbase or Circle. The third answer, which I think I was thinking of, which still ends up circling back to Bitcoin, and this is just me thinking out loud. I don't know if anyone respected has actually said this, but like in a way, it still leads back to Bitcoin, because as you've seen from the Tether model, Tether makes all this money because it doesn't have to pay its depositors any interest, which is literally the best model, a business model in the world. And then they buy the treasuries, and then with the profit, they buy Bitcoin. So like in the end, even when the stablecoin providers who you're you want to bet that they're going to have more dollars in their ecosystem, in their company, yeah, they're going to use those dollars immediately to buy the treasuries and do something safe to make sure that those dollars are always safe, because they need to be stable. But then with the profits that they're going to make, because they don't owe any interest to their depositors, they're going to go buy crypto. At least that's what Tether's doing, and it seems to be the best business model in the world right now. I'm sure other people must be looking at that model saying like, right, we want a slice of that too. I'm looking at that thinking, how do we get a slice of that? Like, it's just an incredible business model. So there's a variety of thoughts there, a little bit on Bitcoin, a little bit on stablecoins, Legendary. Anything else from you as we kind of conclude our reflections on this?
Yeah, I mean, two more things would come to mind. One is connecting it to yesterday's conversation when Brad was on stage with us and shared the DeFi playbook. Basically, if you think TradFi money is coming, TradFi money would look at DeFi first, not at buying meme coins. And if you look at what are the places where you see hundreds of millions in stable coins being borrowed against or being used to lend, that could be a hypothesis. And the other one would be to look at stablecoin adjacent businesses. We talked about a couple of weeks ago about Blue Chip as a stablecoin rating agency that obviously would profit from that if you see more stablecoins and stablecoins in more volume becoming relevant, and see if there's stablecoin adjacent businesses, infrastructure, etc., apart from Coinbase, obviously, that is investable or that you could have skin in the game.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. I like the thinking. I like the discussion. Interesting stuff. We're obviously going to keep monitoring all of that conversation as we move forward. Stablecoin stuff, Bitcoin stuff. We'll keep on top of it. Let's move into. Let's just hit the Web3 roundup first to get you up to speed with everything else that's been happening in the space in the last 24 hours. Then let's do both final headlines to give them both some airtime. So as always, this is from the snapshot, which is pinned up top. Number one, as I mentioned already, largest CryptoPunk holders started selling at reasonable prices. The handle is Wilcox_NFT, and you can go and check that collection out if that is something you're interested in tracking. Number two, stablecoin transactions approach $3 trillion in Q2 of 2024. If you look at the graph, I'm going to share this on screen for the people who are watching in. That's just going up like a lot. That is an all-time high for a quarter. Yeah, it's just up and to the right, as we said. Next, ApeCoin announces testnet Curtis for 16th of July. Interesting to see that develop for ApeChain. Popcat overtakes Mog as the largest cat meme coin at $850 million. Bold shares a 100-piece Boldinals collection, which has been inscribed on Bitcoin. Obviously, Bold is the very prominent and talented artist who kind of does those comic strips each day. Really, really awesome stuff. Nice to see that collection coming to light soon. Next, this is a really cool piece of news. Nouns School, funded by Nouns, is 75% complete. Nouns is obviously trying to do all this type of cool public funding. I know that their treasury is not what it once was. It still has millions of dollars in it, and they're still looking to allocate to people doing cool stuff. I'm funded by Lil Nouns. This was funded by the main Nouns protocol. The Noun School is coming along pretty well at 75% completion with 4 months left on the project calendar. Soon, the noggles will be so big on all the buildings. That is pretty amazing. That's a school in Africa being built by Nouns. Next, Whale Traders GCR allegedly profits $8 million from the Trump trade. This was, I think they were accumulating years ago in order for this moment. That's not guaranteed. That's just kind of the wallet tracking. GCR, obviously legendary trader and prominent person on CT when he was here. He's kind of logged off since. that is the Web3 roundup. Legendary, we've got 10 minutes left to probably touch on the final 2 headlines. Maybe let's do the prediction markets one quicker, because I know you have a nice anecdote for that. And then we'll get into the ETH ETF stuff, which we think is coming. So yesterday, JD Vance was announced as the official vice president for Trump. And he had a coin launched pretty rapidly, or I think the coin had actually launched before, and then the anticipation of it being him was sending the price higher. But as you can see on the screen, the coin was already sold off 75% from the peak when, like, this is like 10 minutes after they got the official announcement. That led to this tweet from NFT Stats, which I think is very telling. He said, I always go back to when Ansem lost in boxing and the token of the guy who beat him went down 99% in the next 24 hours. These are not prediction markets. Very important point. You're betting on future token excitement. Figuring out the rules is 90% of the challenge. You're probably giving someone a little smarter and faster exit liquidity. Anyone can change one letter and say they are the real token. We all know where most of these coins are ending up. Got to be very careful. Legendary, do you want to speak to this? What are your thoughts on these kind of political tokens coming out, which should be differentiated from poly market, where you can place bets on certain things happening? These are actual named meme coins of people who might achieve prominence for a moment and then they disappear. What's your thinking?
I like the way Stats has worded that, to say it's betting on future token excitement, which obviously means once the speculation becomes a fact, once the event that you are betting on with the token happens, that interest goes away, moves away, and shifts to the next thing. And it's a different thing to trade as opposed to prediction markets, right? I feel like that attention, you have to be in the meme coin trenches, which I'm certainly not, to understand which of the dozens of Vance coins to pick and how fast to be with that and sell that. Whereas I feel like poly market is more for the millennials like myself. It's slower, and my brain has the chance to catch up with what's going on. And Stats also had posted a different different post yesterday saying, people saying very likely VP candidate GD Vance is seen leaving his house in a motorcade. Quick, someone monetize. And when I saw that tweet, I was like pretty lucky to see it. Well, the second Stats posted that, I headed over to Polymarket and saw, there has to be obviously a bet on who's going to be Trump's running mate. And back then it was a 50-ish cent bet on Vance. So, and I still had the balance on there from betting on Biden dropping out of the race and basically collecting my money once that shot up after he didn't do a great job at the first debate.
Sure.
And I went all in with my balance in a bit of a more degenerate move yesterday. And 20 minutes later, as this picture was circulated more and more, the odds on Polymarket shot up like from 50 cents to 73 cents. So I was able to like almost book a 50% profit in more than 20 minutes, or in a bit more than 20 minutes, which obviously is nothing compared to people doing hundreds of X's on meme coins. But it's a very leisurely pace that you can, trade on Polymarket on. And I feel like there will be more of those quote unquote free bets where you can just come in and collect your profits after a couple of minutes or hours. And my speculation and question, just final point on that real quick, is could there potentially be a Polymarket token and all of that betting volume payoff for doing it? I don't know. I hope so. I would like to see that. But yeah, I'm rather
lots of investors, right? They raised from crypto capital Polymarket.
Yeah, they did.
As I know.
I mean, both crypto capital as well as like Peter Thiel, but
sure. Okay, that's one point. So I think there's definitely a non-zero chance of that happening. So that's interesting. But the reason why I actually like that trade more than the meme coin stuff is for 2 reasons. One, you're betting on real life things. Like once JD Vance does get appointed, no one can take that away from you. Like that is like you win the bet. Whereas with the meme coin version of, speculation, even if he wins, you go down. If he loses, you go down. And if he wins, you go down. So you're purely change it. Like you need to be in and out. Whereas at least, and I appreciate you were in and out on this one as well. but you were right. Like, you bet on the right thing. So you didn't, so in that sense, you didn't need to have rushed in some sense, although I appreciate, yeah, you did rush in this sense. So there's that protection, which I guess makes it more friendly to millennials because they like it. But the second bigger point, and I don't know if the second bigger point is that what X demonstrated in the last 3-4 days with the attempted Trump assassination is that this really is the premier news platform for information. Now, of course, there's going to be information which is incorrect, misinformation, disinformation, however you want to slice it. There will be false stuff. Just legendary when you posted in our chat that about Vance, I posted back some tweet that someone had written that allegedly Trump was in conversations with RFK to become the running mate. So, like, look, there's obviously stuff which is not true here, but the point is that if there is going to be something true that comes to light, it will come to light here first, which means that if you are terminally online in this market, which I think a few of us are at this point, like, you can get some really great positions on this market, given that X is becoming this premier place. You know the accounts to follow. You're like very familiar, like you've even built up this network of trusted people where, like, okay, well, if this particular person reshares something, maybe the probability is that it's going to be better than if some random person was just on Twitter scrolling around and they don't have that built-in network. And again, there's no guarantee at all because someone can share something that's wrong as well. But the point is, the fact that we're so native to this platform means that we can navigate it way faster, and I think we can assess the validity of information faster than other people. Any reflections on that, Legendary?
Yeah, no, that's a very fair point, and I like the difference that you painted between betting on a meme coin, and even if you're right on your bet, you can still lose money if you just stay in too long in that bet, whereas that obviously can't really happen with poly market. And I feel like, obviously, if you are familiar with meme coins, that's an easy to understand concept. But if you're basically not familiar with meme coins and you're just seeing what's going on and you have to explain to someone on the outside, so basically that's like, it's like sports betting, but it's not, because if you bet on something and you're right, you still can lose money because you just did stick around with the bet for too long until it became an absolute reality and capital has already moved on to the next thing. So even if you're right, it's basically like betting on a soccer game, but or in a football game, but once the game's over, even if you're right and you say, yeah, Spain will win the championship in Europe, you lost your money because people moved on to bet on, I don't know, to bet on Wimbledon, just to make up an example. Whereas to actually make money, you have to bet on Spain and close your bet, aka sell your meme coin positions in minute 85 of the game or minute 80 of the game. And that's a key difference. Yeah.
Can I just ask one clarification then on this? What happens? Surely, if you hadn't sold your position, wouldn't you have doubled? Wouldn't you
Yeah, I
have
would have
doubled
made more money. Basically, I missed out on an additional 25-ish%. I could have doubled from 50 cents to 100 cents, basically. So to me, it was a 2K bet, and I made 1K on it, and I
Sure.
missed out on an additional 1K. But I was
Got
like, I have no idea. Didn't track the running mate news
Sure.
and the candidates. So I was like, yeah, I'm just going to take a free grand and walk away.
Okay, so that's interesting. Yeah, that's fascinating. This is a market I'm interested in. It feels like there's something there, right? The way that the politics is going to take has already taken center stage in many ways in the last few days and weeks. It's going to just increase, I think, in the next few weeks. Yeah, I'm interested in poly market for this specific type of thing, leveraging, because I'm always trying to think in what areas or in what sectors do I have an edge? Like, at one point in time, I was like, oh, should I sell my crypto to buy some real estate? I don't have an edge in real estate. What's the point? What's the point in me doing that? Yeah, you could do that. And to be clear, I'm going to do that at some point because there's certain things that I do think it would be helpful to have. But like for the majority of your stack, or like what I'm trying to do, what would be the point in moving the majority of his chips onto a table where you don't have an edge. When it comes to X, we have an edge. Like we 100% have an edge. I'm on X all the time. So because I have to write snapshot, we do this, we do that. Like we're just constantly here. So that seems like an interesting bet for the people who have an edge in that particular environment. So that's something I'm going to think on a little bit more. But unfortunately, that is time for today. We didn't get a chance to talk ETH ETF stuff, but I guess we'll have a further chance to talk about that the rest of this week because it's predicted to be coming to us next week. So hopefully we'll have a little bit of a chance to talk about that tomorrow. We hope you enjoyed today's show. That was maybe a little bit of a different one. We had a lot of personal insight there, a lot of what some people might describe as alpha, but of course we do not know anything for sure. We're just sharing our thoughts sometimes in real time. And hopefully you find that interesting. I hope you did. Thank you so much to our listeners on X. I think we had 140 in the space today. We got a bunch of people on YouTube too. Shout out to the active commenters on Twitter and X. Thank you so much to my legendary co-host, Legendary, for co-hosting with me. Thank you to our contributors on stage, Tiro and Funky. And we hope that you have a wonderful day. We'll be back with you again tomorrow. Take care. Have a good day. And we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.